Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 24th episode of PAOK Talk. We are your hosts, Angelo and Jono. Jono, it's been a while. How have you been?
Angelo, good mate. I've been well. Hope you're enjoying your summer there. Been good, man. Obviously, just finished watching the Euro 2020. It was great to have some football during the off season, and now we get into pre-season. So lots to talk about. Lots going on.
Yeah, so we'll just jump right into it. We have about three things that we're going to talk about today. The first is the whole saga of Warda versus Lucescu. I guess you could say part two or part three. Um,
hmm
for those that don't know, I'm sure all PAOK fans know, but has been another fallout between Warda and Lucescu. You were telling me the story earlier. Do you want to just explain it again one more time?
Yeah. So far, what's been reported is, well, as you mentioned previously, they've had a frosty relationship at best during Lucescu's previous tenure at the club. So apparently during training, Warda was fouled a couple of times, and Lucescu wasn't calling fouls. Warda was getting frustrated. Same thing happened. So I read contradicting things. Then I read the time that he snapped, he was fouled. I read another time that he miscontrolled the ball and got frustrated and kicked the ball away. And obviously Lucescu didn't like that. Was obviously he's a little bit more strict than probably Pablo Garcia was,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, didn't let him get away with it. They had words, and Warda was kicked out of training basically, and didn't train during the evening session. So that's where we're at, and he obviously didn't participate in the friendly overnight either.
Yeah, no, I mean that was the weirdest thing is him not even being in the 23 that went when I was 11, 20. Yeah, the 23 that came on. Um, I mean, obviously I think it's well documented that I am a big Warda supporter. I think that when he is on, he could be probably one of the most talented players in the Super League in terms of skill. I know I won't say he's a head case, but I know that there is issues with him, personality wise. I know he could get into some trouble. I know he could have some feuds, right? But I wouldn't call him a head case per se. Um, I think that, and I posted on Twitter for those that follow, he is a spark plug. He's a player that if you put on in Greece, in Europe against bigger teams, he can create that goal, whether it's to make a nice run. I know someone commented on Twitter too. He could draw a foul in a very important position. He's done that plenty of times. I think that he's just a player that we need to find a way to put him on the field. And I tell you this: if we get rid of him and he goes somewhere, whether it's in Greece or another team, he is going to do well, just like before. Now, there has to be some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess you could say like agreement between him and Lucescu, or what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a peace offering between those two uh, people, and they have to figure out a way to make it work. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say Warda is an angel or a saint, and that he's of the woods and it's all on Lucescu. Obviously, it's Warda's fault as well. But if you're a coach and you have a player of that skill, and he's not causing too much trouble, right? It's not like he's breaking the law or creating fights at sessions or in the locker room. It's mainly anger, right? With things that from what we've seen. I just think that there's a way that we need to make sure that he gets on the field, and he's gonna be a big help. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting one, and the bulk talk followers on Instagram tend to agree with you. 82% in the poll that we put up yesterday say that they would keep Warda despite this latest indiscretion. So interesting to see that the majority are with you. And without diving as too deep, I think purely on footballing ability, I agree with you. I mean, he's a very good player. Like you said, he adds a point of difference. He can draw fouls. He's creative. He runs at defenders. All that's great, but also, I mean, you say that he's not. He doesn't cause too many problems. I mean, I think in the past we've seen that he can escalate to that. And I mean, if he doesn't like Lucescu, which we know he doesn't, his behaviour will probably alter. So I mean, it's a tricky one, man. If possible, I agree with you. I want to keep him. If there can be a peace offering and they can find middle ground and just keep their, relationship professional, and Warda can, stop snapping and, just being, I guess, undisciplined. Even if it doesn't seem like a big deal, you need to
Right.
understand who your manager is, who your coach is. That's something that I've heard a lot of people overseas in Greece give credit to Garcia for. That he was the first PAOK coach that kind of was able to get Warda playing for him and keep him, in check. Now we don't know how much give Garcia gave him. We don't know what he let him get away with. What he, which is fine because obviously it worked. It didn't disrupt the rest of the team, and
Right.
Warda was, one of our better players in the second half of last season.
Yeah, and I know I saw on the forums too that someone said, and made a great point actually, that once Lucescu came back, you knew the first thing that Warda did, he was gonna get sat down for. I mean that the two people don't like each other. That's fine, but I think if you want to be a team that is competing in Greece, then you need to find a way to keep your best players. And now I'm not saying to hurt the integrity of the team or to keep someone who's going to be a locker room disaster, right? But maybe there needs to be a way for both people to grow up and get past this.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. Now, I know something that you've kind of, well, actually, I'm not sure if you've thought this previously, but I know people have thought this, is that, ever since they've had, whatever their first falling out was, and there's been multiple things rumoured, that Lucescu's kind of had it in for Warda, and, he'll find a way to kind of get him off the team. So, I mean, if you buy into that, I think that, Lucescu's a professional manager and he sees Warda's value as a player, and I'm sure he'd prefer to have him on the team, but it just comes down to at what cost. If he thinks that he's going to be disruptive, he's not going to, play for him and listen to him, then it's better we just shake hands and, end it here.
So,
But, I mean, yeah, if they can come together, that'd be great.
if you're looking at the roster, who on the current roster would be playing his position over him if we got rid of him?
Well, I mean, I think the longer it goes, I don't know if we're actually going to touch on players that we might sell. We might a bit later, but
Just right now. We'll do right now. Just as of this moment.
Solis and Zivkovic would be the starters on the wings if Warda's not playing.
Right,
So
but then
not-
I would say Warda is a better like a 10, in like a 4-2-3-1, the one right in front of the midfielder. So you would have someone like a Solis on one side, Zivkovic on the other, Warda in the middle, and then our striker up top. I think that four is a really dangerous four. And then you could put like an El Kaduri and a Schwab or an Isiti behind them.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends in terms of how you want to use him. So it's still very early in the preseason. Obviously, he didn't play in the latest friendly, but I think against Volos in the first friendly, he was used as a winger. But yeah, I mean, you're right. In terms of, if he's a number 10, you play all three of those guys. And yeah, that's a really dangerous front three plus a striker.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. But yeah, if it's terms of the wing, then yeah, you would beat Solis Zivkovic. Number 10 at the moment, we only have Kagawa, who we're still obviously not sure of what level he's going to be able to get back to. And probably El Kaduri, who's done that in the past, but I think he's probably a little bit better further back as a number 8.
And Vracas, who he played today over Warda in the game.
Yeah, who's a young kid who probably you wouldn't imagine him getting too many minutes come the season.
Right.
But, I mean, you never know.
So let's shift gears to the transfers. We've signed 2 players, Lucas Taylor and Nelson Oliveira. What do you think about those 2 signees?
Well, Lucas Taylor, I don't know much about him. Brazilian left back coming out of the Ukrainian league, so obviously that brings back positive memories for us with Leo Matos, the last Brazilian right back to come from the Ukraine, who obviously became a legend, I'd say, of the club. Very successful, so immediately your mind goes to that and you think, well, hopefully this guy can be that level. His journey is interesting. Like, he just seems like he's only kind of become a starter in the last year or so in Europe, so not sure what to make of him. Reports have been positive. He's got a lot of pace, good going forward. So, I mean, I don't mind it. We probably needed a right back. Rodrigo has his flaws. So I'd say those 2 will be the right backs. Looks like Taylor will be the starter. So yeah, I don't mind the Lucas Taylor signing, and I just don't know enough about the player to have form my opinion. But I mean, I look forward to it. And then Nelson Oliveira, obviously a striker from AEK. Honestly, I was a little bit indifferent when we were linked to him, and then obviously it was announced. I mean, he was okay at AEK. I'm not like jumping out of my skin over here, excited that we have him. But yeah, I mean, the positive is that he knows the Greek league, and that Lucescu was apparently quite adamant that he wanted him. So, for me, that's enough. If Lucescu wants him, he's got him. So, yeah, I mean, I look forward to seeing him. But yeah, I mean, Oliveira isn't a signing that inspired a whole lot of confidence in me. I don't know if you saw him differently at his time in AEK or what you think of him as a signing.
Yeah, so for me too, I'll start with Oliveira because you just ended with him. For me too, it was an right? It was well, if we're gonna be looking to make strides as a club, I'd want to spend more money on a big name striker, especially or a bigger striker, especially since we didn't look to re-sign Kremenchik, and I don't see a real difference between Oliveira and Swiderski. Obviously, different style, but I would
Yeah.
say they're the same like level of skill, right? Um, he scored some big goals for Ike. He has 71 goals in a little less than 200 games. So it's not horrible conversion rate. He gets some assists as well. He in today's friendly, I liked his work ethic. He seemed like he likes using his body and holding the ball up. Swiderski didn't do anything for me in today's friendly, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I mean, it is what it is. I want to wait and see because strikers. There's been times where a striker that's not as skilled as someone else will come out and score 4 goals in 6 games and right basically cement himself as a striker. And there's been some good strikers. I mean, look at Cholak now, right? He scored in 2 goals in the Champions League qualifiers, right? In
Yeah.
the 2 legs that they played to help Malmo advance. So it's all about form. It's all about form and how they are doing at the moment. For Lucas Taylor, yeah, right back. He was very pacey from what I could tell today, and there's still something a little off for me with him. He didn't seem as confident with the ball at his feet. I really I like Rodrigo. He did well today, and I'll go about that as well later. But both signings, I would say can compete for a starting spot, but they're not signings that you have to pencil into the starting 11 every single time. Would you agree with that? Like they're not game changers.
At this stage, no. I think they will. Well, actually, I'm not sure about Oliveira. It'll be interesting to see if he gets a starting spot. But yeah, I think Taylor will be the starter at right back. But yeah, I mean, it's more just wait and see. And what you're saying about Taylor kind of makes sense. Like new team, new system, so getting to learn all that. So confidence will come for him as he goes on. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. So we'll move on to players that we're linked to, or well, Jasmin Gurdic is a Slovenian central midfielder from Parma, who we've been heavily linked to over the last few days. Nothing is signed. It's been reported for a day or two that it's basically a done deal. Still haven't seen anything official or confirmation from a reliable source, but we'll wait to see what happens. Obviously, stuff can move pretty quickly during the transfer window. So he's had a really good career in Italy. He's played, many years there. Atalanta, Parma, Torino, Fiorentina. He's played at some big teams. So he's 32, so he's a little bit older. Central midfielder. Obviously, age would be a touch concerning, but I mean, Lucescu's kind of proven in the past that he doesn't really care about age if the player can perform. And I think that's, the correct attitude to have to these type of things. So, I mean, he's highly touted, man. He's capped 68, 69 times with his national team. He looks good on paper. So if we can get him, it looks like he will be a difference maker in central midfield. Bardem has been relegated to City B. So he's definitely on the way out. It's just a matter of whether we can be the ones that secure his signature. So, I mean, that's one that kind of gets me excited just based on his biography and what he's done. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, I don't know if you agree that we do need another central midfielder, and is there any other position that you think we should be trying to target and sign up another player?
I like hit. I think he'd be a really solid player for us. Sorry, I had my eye on the Buck game. We're both watching it. I think he'd be a solid player for us. I think he would slot into the starting role immediately. I mean, everyone has a love affair for El Kaduri, from the media to the coaching to the coaches.
To me, bro, that's my boy.
To
Come on, man.
you, to Pascalis, everyone. So I mean, he's pretty much cemented into the lineup. But I think of him and a Kurtic would be a good duo. I still like having someone like a Schwab and a Kurtic would be good. They're kind of the same player, I would say. But yeah, so he brings a lot of experience, like you said. He brings a lot of high value games, right? He's played for the national team. He's played in Italy against some really good competition. I think he would be a player that we'd be happy to get, and the fact that he's old doesn't bother me because it's rumored that it's going to be on a loan deal with the option to buy. That's what I saw. I think that was him. I don't know if it was the other midfield. I think it's him. I think it's a 1 year. It's a loan, but that doesn't make sense if he's 32, right?
Well, I mean, it might be if that is the case, it might be Parma backing themselves to get promoted again. So get him out for this season when he wants to be playing top division,
right?
And then they'll get him back. But I mean, yeah, we'll
no,
see.
I'm trying to look real quick while I talk. But yeah, so if that is, and we're not spending any money on him, at least for this year, as a 32-year-old, I mean, I would say do it, right? You look who would be left out. My boy Asiti, maybe, or Nunu would go. I think he's gonna go anyways. But so then we would have as the two, right? The 8 and the 6. You would have El Kaduri, you would have Schwab, you would have Kurtic, and you would have Asiti. Am I missing anyone?
There's Cigaras too, who's obviously
And
young.
Cigaras, but maybe loan him out, but I wouldn't get rid of him. But he did well when he played a couple games last year. Obviously, that one game, who was it versus PSV in the where he looked overmatched, right? Because I think that was
like his debut.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, and I mean you can't criticize that, but either a CD or Cigaras will at least be on loan or go, right? Because all you need is 4 for those two positions. But yeah, I mean, I would like that. I would like the transfer. I think that's good. I mean, I wouldn't even mind getting a couple more players under that like kind of thing where we're bringing them out on loan for a little bit, see how they go, at least to compete, to see how we can do. If we want to make a further run at the title or in the Conference League.
Yeah, nah, I'm with you, man. The central midfielders, I think what you said on El Kaduri, I think that, well, Lucescu used him as a winger in the past, so I'm not sure he'll be nailed down as a number 8. I think he might rotate between a couple of positions between that one. The wing, Lucescu almost used him exclusively as a winger and a number 10, if I recall correctly. It was more Ferreira that turned him or played him into a number 8. I think he had played it as a number 8 during his time in Italy.
Right.
So I'm not sure if, we should be counting El Kaduri in that position, because I think he will be moved around. I'm not sure Lucescu knows where he's going to play him. But I mean, I think we have more wingers now.
That's what I was just going to say too. Yeah. We have better wingers now.
Yeah, so it might be a thing of, we're covered in that position now, so you can play as, in central midfield or as a number 10, maybe in a game where he wants to maintain possession and not be all out attack, which he might swing towards a Kagawa. Maybe even Warda if he's still there. Who knows if he survives, but we'll see. Right. But yeah, the other one too is left back. Do we need a left back? Because it looks like Vieirinha has played at left back against Volos. If I'm not mistaken, he didn't play overnight against PSV. Is that correct?
Correct. But Rodrigo did, and he looked pretty solid out there. He looked pretty solid.
So do you think Rodrigo at a left back is the move, or do you think that we're obviously being linked to Baba? Would you be happy with him, or do you think we need to sign an actual left back?
I think we're fine for now. See how it goes. The deadline for the transfers are what, September 1st?
Yeah, something like that.
Right. So I would wait for now. see how we do in the Conference League. Um, See if we're looking good. I mean, because you would have Vieirinha, you would have Rodrigo, you even have Liratsis if need be. Right? We're not in the Champions League qualifiers. We're not in the Europa League. I think with those with the leagues with the competitions we're in, I think those players suffice.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that, I mean, we spoke about this, I think, in our last episode about the quality of opponent in the Conference League. There's some good ones. We might not get that quality in our first qualifying game in a few weeks' time, but I mean, I think it's risky because all it takes is one game where he'll be exposed, and people will be on him and will be, having shots. I think that we are in the market for a left back. It's just who that left back is. I mean, they've worked on Baba. There's been no resolution. I don't know if they're going to get him, because that would be ideal. But I mean, yeah, we'll see. If Rodrigo, it's promising to hear that Rodrigo's been solid, because it's always good to have that cover.
Yeah. So you basically have three quality outside backs.
Yeah, basically. The issue I have is, like, if he intends for Vieirinha to be the starter, which is fine, he's obviously going to be he's not going to be able to play Europe League. We know he's aged. We know he struggles a little bit to get up and down the pitch as a fullback, so he will need to be rested and rotated, and you just need that quality to come in and replace him when he's, being rested and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think Vieirinha will be the left back to kick off the European campaign, to be honest. But I mean, we'll just have to wait and see with that.
Right. So let's talk about the game today. I want to start off chatting about it. There's a lot, I think, of overreaction. So for me, it was today. For you, it was overnight, right? I think there's a lot of overreaction. Well, I wrote down a couple notes, and I'm going to say all my bullet points. It may be a little out of order, but I'm just going to go down the list so I don't forget anything. So initially, I wrote that it was clear within the first 5 to 10 minutes what Lucescu wanted the team to do, and that was to start playing out of the back. That was the theme today. Now, if we were playing PSV and it was the European game, do I think that would be his game plan? No. Do I think that would be his game plan if we're playing a really good team in the Conference League? No. I just think he was like, you know what, it's a friendly, I'm going to try it out, see what we got. Because when we play teams that park the bus, we can't play direct, because those teams have 10 players, 11 players behind the ball. Playing direct, playing to one of our lone striker who would have, you could say, 4 people around them, it won't work. You have to create openings. You have to move the ball side to side. Now, and that was clear that that's what he wanted to do today. And that's why I wrote down, it will work against teams who park the bus to open them up, but not against good teams, where teams like this, I think we do our best when we counter and then we're direct. We play to our wings, use our speed, maybe draw a foul. We catch them off guard, we score a goal. Think of our big European goals. A lot of them recently have been from counterattack. I think our defense looked really shaky. Now, again, I'm going to say this is a friendly, so I'm not worried more about the result. I'm looking more at the individual aspect and the individual identities of the players. Defense looks shaky. They look shaky defending, and they look shaky with the ball. Now, to play the style that Lucescu wanted to play today, you need defenders who could make a pass, can be confident on the ball under pressure. No one was today, and I would say no one. You have Michailidis made a lot of errors. Pereira, who got the start at left back, looked shaky. Varela tried to pass a couple times, couldn't keep it on the ground. You had Lucas Taylor. I think he did all right, but even he looked shaky when they were pressing high. PSV pressured really, really high, and that caused our defense to have trouble. And there's a lot of times when our goalies made mistakes because they didn't want to play it to defender. You would have like Pascalakis pass the ball out of bounds for a corner. There's just a lot of times where we don't look like we're ready to play that style yet. Now again, it's a first friendly against a quality opponent. I'm fine with giving friendlies like this, and I'm fine with trying new things, so I'm not overreacting. Let's see. We were playing fast and out of control on defense, to the point where we would have 3 players go to one guy, and they would just make a nice little give and go. They toyed us with that, and for those that watched, it was kind of embarrassing. They were just like trying to meg players. They were going around them. We were, again, it was a thing where we were just pressing without a purpose. You would have 2, 3 PAOK players go against a PSV player, and it would just be a give and go, boom. And that just shows in the talent level, the talent discrepancy between the two teams, and just the overall, I guess you could say, preparation, because they have a game next week in their Champions League qualifiers, and we have a while until our European campaign starts. So I think it was a little bit of that. So again, I would say I liked Rodrigo, so I'll go individual players. I liked Rodrigo on the left side. He did well. I know Esiti, some people gave him slack, but I think he did well for what he is. He's an 8. He's a 10. No. Whoa, I'm going backwards.
He's a 6.
He's a 6. He's a 6, and his job again is to clog up the middle, create havoc, body players, hit players, make them sore, blah, blah, blah. He's not going to be a player that's picking the ball side to side. I mean, he scored a beautiful goal in the first friendly, right?
Yeah, he did. He scored a nice goal.
So, I mean, I liked him. I think he did well today. I liked Zivkovic played well. Again, for me, cements the spot as the starter. Paskalakis looked really, really shaky. I mentioned a couple players that did not do well. Pretty much all the defenders. Varela looked shaky. Rodrigo looked good. Crespo looked decent. Michailidis gave the ball away too easily. I'm trying to think who else. Labru shouldn't see the field based off of today's performance. He did pretty bad. Solis did well when he went in. He didn't get many touches, but when he did, he looked explosive. But I think that the other team knew who he was, so they were obviously more cautious with him.
PSV should remember better than most teams.
Exactly. So, but again, I don't want to get too concerned about the result, but what I am concerned about were individual performances, if that makes sense. I think that we're going to need to shore it up. And I hope that in one of the friendlies we play a team that parks the bus so we could prepare for that. Because it's a whole different animal when we're playing a PSV team who's going to press high and cause trouble when we're playing a team in the Super League who's going to sit back and force us to kind of break their bus, right? So do you disagree with anything I said?
No, I agree. It's something I want to mention. We were talking about the left back before, and we completely forgot to mention Pereira, who you obviously mentioned in your review there. So, goes to show that we probably don't think that he'll come into consideration to be a starter. But I mean, we apologise to Adrian Pereira there. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you for the most part, man. Like, a friendly is a friendly, and like you said, I think the most important thing is that they are primed and ready to go. They've been basically done their preseason. This is their preseason winding up. They have a Champions League qualifier next week, so they're ready to go. They're a lot further along than we are in terms of our preparation. So yeah, I don't put too much stock into the result. Obviously, I agree with you. You look at the individual performances, and it sounds like there were some issues, but yeah, I mean, it's years gone by, I've been excited by friendly results only for the season to come around, and we've been awful. And by the same token, I've seen poor friendly performances, and then we've come out into the season and started on fire. So you don't put too much stock unless you're kind of losing, very, very heavily and consistently, which I don't think will happen. I think, we'll bounce back in our next couple friendlies. We obviously won the first one against Warda, so I mean, and Lucescu is a different manager to Garcia. I know a few of these guys have had Lucescu as a coach, but it's a transition period. There's going to be a transition period.
Yeah, I agree. Any final thoughts before we head out?
No, really. That's it. I enjoyed doing this little preseason. It's our first ever preseason, I think. Show. I think we started last year during the European qualifier, during the Champions League qualifiers.
Right.
So I enjoyed talking a bit of preseason with you, man.
Yeah.
So this is all I can get through.
Yeah. So thank you all. I've gotten a lot of interaction on Twitter. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, PAOK Talk. Instagram, it's PAOK_Talk, is it? Or is it PAOK Talk?
Yep, that's right. PAOK_Talk.
PAOK_Talk. And then obviously here on YouTube. We'll be, once the season begins, we'll start posting on a more regular basis. Maybe We'll do one in a week after a couple more friendlies and when our conference opponent is announced. So thank you all for listening. Hope you have a good rest of your week heading into the weekend, and we'll talk soon.